Tonight, a geopolitical earthquake is shaking the foundations of Eurasia. What if Crimea goes back to Ukraine? What if Recep Tayyip Erdogan just made a move that stunned Vladimir Putin? And what if, behind the silence, China is preparing a long strategic game that could fracture Russia from within? Hello everyone, welcome back to the Impact Report. Please subscribe my channel, because what we are about to uncover could redefine the balance of power across Europe and Asia. The exterior of this crisis looks dramatic, bold and highly symbolic. Crimea, the Black Sea jewel annexed by Russia in 2014, has always been more than just territory. It is a military fortress, a naval stronghold, and a symbol of Russian resurgence under Vladimir Putin. From the outside, we see escalating Ukrainian strikes targeting Russian supply lines, naval bases in Sevastopol, and key infrastructure. The Kerch Bridge, once considered untouchable, has faced repeated threats. The exterior landscape shows smoke rising over ports, drones flying over the Black Sea, and NATO surveillance intensifying along the eastern flank. Turkey, under Recep Tayyip Erdogan, positions itself as mediator while simultaneously supplying Ukraine with advanced drones and maintaining strategic leverage over the Bosporus Strait. This exterior front reveals pressure from multiple directions: Ukraine's battlefield push, Turkey's strategic balancing, and China's quiet observation. The world sees a powerful Russia projecting strength, but cracks are beginning to show in logistics, economy, and diplomacy. Inside the interior political chamber of Moscow, tension grows, confidence masks concern, military briefings intensify, economic advisors whisper about sanctions. Public messaging remains strong. Within Ankara's interior calculations, Erdogan weighs opportunity. NATO member yet independent operator, grain deal mediator, energy hub builder. Beijing's interior strategy remains calm, silent diplomacy, economic leverage, long-term positioning. The performance of the major players now defines the direction of history. Ukraine's military performance has shifted dramatically, with advanced Western systems improving precision strikes. Crimea, once distant from direct combat, now feels the heat of modern warfare. Ukrainian forces have demonstrated capacity to hit airfields, ammunition depots, and naval assets deep behind Russian lines. This performance is not just military, it is psychological. It signals that Crimea is no longer an untouchable fortress. Russia's performance, meanwhile, focuses on defensive fortifications, layered trench systems, and missile deterrence. Yet sustaining such defense requires resources, manpower, and morale. Turkey's performance under Erdogan is perhaps the most complex. Ankara sells drones to Ukraine while keeping dialogue open with Moscow. Erdogan negotiates prisoner swaps, grain corridors, and energy deals. This dual performance strengthens Turkey's leverage over both East and West. China's performance appears restrained but strategic. Beijing increases trade with Moscow, buys discounted energy, and avoids direct military involvement. But if Russia weakens significantly, China could gain greater influence in Central Asia and Siberia, reshaping regional power dynamics. Safety features in this geopolitical system revolve around deterrence and alliances. NATO's Article 5 acts as a protective shield for member states bordering Russia. Turkey controls access to the Black Sea through the Montreaux Convention, limiting naval escalation. Nuclear deterrence remains the ultimate safety mechanism, preventing direct superpower confrontation. Economic interdependence acts as another stabilizer. Even rivals rely on global trade networks. Yet these safety features are under stress. Sanctions isolate Russia from Western markets. Energy corridors shift. Alliances recalibrate. Erdogan's role becomes critical as Turkey balances between confrontation and cooperation. If Crimea were to return to Ukraine through negotiation or force, the safety architecture of Europe would be permanently altered. Russia would face domestic political shockwaves. Ukraine would gain strategic coastline security. NATO would see validation of its support strategy. China would reassess its alignment, possibly recalculating its global posture. The unique selling points of this unfolding drama are unlike any previous conflict. Crimea is not just land, it is identity, history, and military dominance in the Black Sea. Erdogan's unique position allows him to talk to both Putin and Western leaders. Few global figures can play both sides so effectively. China's silent plan represents strategic patience. Rather than direct confrontation, Beijing expands influence through economics, infrastructure, and diplomacy. Another unique element is technology. Drone warfare, satellite intelligence, cyber operations, and information campaigns redefine how modern conflicts unfold. The narrative battlefield is as important as the physical one. Social media amplifies every strike, every speech, every warning. Energy politics also stands out as a unique leverage point. Pipelines, gas hubs, and shipping routes shape decisions as much as tanks and missiles. If Russia's grip on Crimea weakens, its control over Black Sea energy routes diminishes. Turkey's ambition to become a regional energy hub strengthens. China's Belt and Road corridors may adjust accordingly. The price of this geopolitical struggle is enormous. Economically, Russia faces prolonged sanctions impacting technology imports, financial systems, and industrial production. Ukraine pays a heavy human and infrastructure cost defending its sovereignty. Europe absorbs inflationary shocks and energy diversification expenses. Turkey navigates currency pressures while leveraging diplomatic influence. China calculates carefully, avoiding sanctions while maintaining trade balance. Militarily, the price includes equipment losses, ammunition expenditure, and long-term readiness strain. Politically, leaders risk credibility. For Putin, Crimea symbolizes national pride. Losing influence there would challenge his authority. For Erdogan, miscalculation could strain NATO relations or Russian partnerships. For China, overt alignment with a weakening Russia could isolate Beijing from key global markets. The humanitarian price remains the most tragic, with displacement, casualties, and regional instability affecting millions. As pressure intensifies, the possibility of Crimea shifting back toward Ukraine becomes less unthinkable. Ukrainian forces targeting supply lines isolate the peninsula. Turkish diplomacy influences grain routes and Black Sea security. Chinese analysts observe potential fragmentation risks inside Russia, particularly in economically vulnerable regions. If prolonged strain continues, internal political shifts in Moscow cannot be ruled out. However, Russia retains significant military capabilities and nuclear deterrence. Any transition regarding Crimea would likely involve complex negotiations, security guarantees, and phased agreements rather than sudden collapse. Erdogan's shock factor lies in unpredictability. By maintaining open communication with both Kyiv and Moscow, he positions Turkey as indispensable. Should Ankara shift more decisively toward Ukraine, it could alter naval logistics and diplomatic dynamics overnight. Meanwhile, China's silent calculations extend beyond the current war. A weakened Russia becomes more dependent on Beijing economically, potentially transforming the partnership into asymmetrical reliance. Central Asian republics may pivot further toward China if Moscow's influence fades. Energy routes may redirect eastward. Global supply chains may adjust once again. In conclusion, the question is not simply whether Crimea goes back to Ukraine. The deeper question is how the balance of power evolves if such a shift occurs. Erdogan's strategic maneuvers demonstrate that middle powers can shape major outcomes. China's quiet observation suggests long-term planning rather than emotional reaction. Russia faces pressure but retains formidable strength. Ukraine shows resilience and tactical innovation. The exterior battlefield continues to evolve, while the interior political rooms weigh risks and opportunities. The performance of each actor influences global security architecture. Safety features strain but hold. Unique strategic advantages redefine alliances. The price grows heavier with each passing month. The world watches as history unfolds across the Black Sea horizon, where diplomacy, strategy, and power converge in a defining moment for the 21st century.